Thank you, Chair. I also appreciate the forbearance that you just mentioned. So I wanted to ask some questions about subclass 485 visas. Mr Pizzullo, the Migration Amendment COVID-19 concessions regulations that went through last year enabled international students that had completed their studies but were overseas when the borders closed to be able to apply for their 485 graduate visas from offshore. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Will I just confirm?
That's correct,
Yep.
Senator.
Yep. Thank you. I wanted to ask, though, about people who already held those visas prior to the borders closing. They've, as of 31st of August 2020, there was 13,000 people in that category, just over 13,000 according to your department's records. They've been sitting there watching their visas tick down and they can't come to Australia to study through no fault of their own. Did the department consider advising the government to include that cohort of people in the regulations? And I guess my question is, why did it only apply to people applying for new visas, and why did the regulations not cover people who already held 485 visas?
The regulations related to the grant. It didn't give an entitlement to travel, did it?
That's correct. Senator, the regulations provide for students who, because of COVID being unable to travel but were still enrolled in Australian institutions, subsequently were undertaking their education online via a virtual course. The change in regulations allowed those students to, first of all, count that time studying overseas online towards qualifying for the 485 visa, and then also provided for that visa to be applied for offshore.
That's right.
So it was aimed. The change was aimed specifically at those enrolled students.
Who had not yet applied for the visa.
Who had not yet applied for a 485.
But I'm asking about the people who already held a 485 visa when the borders were closed, and they've spent 12 months having invested, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars in their education in Australia, including all the visa charges. They've watched their visas wind down and they're stuck overseas. Did the department consider providing for that cohort in the regulations, and would the department consider providing some further advice to government to deal with the situation that those people find themselves in through no fault of their own?
But the measure related to supporting online studies,
Supporting international education was the measure, and encouraging students to remain enrolled so that they could return once borders were
That's
open.
right, and it dealt with people who had yet to apply, but it didn't deal with people who already applied and been granted a 485 visa. That's the point I'm making.
yeah, but they had their,
They're 485, but they can't come to Australia because they can't get in.
but even those captured under the regulation can apply, be granted, and still not travel.
Yeah, but they can
Because the
apply
border-
for a visa from overseas.
Yes.
But the people that already had the visa under a pre-COVID expectation that they could come into Australia
Yes.
have been stuck overseas, and I'm wondering whether there could be provision for either an automatic extension to their visa or a provision that would allow them to apply for an extension from overseas. Anyway, I'm happy for you to take it. I don't expect you to make up policy on the fly here, but I just thought it was an issue worth raising. There's a large number of people, as I understand it, in that situation, and I think it's not beyond the wherewithal of government, not necessarily making a comment about the department, but if government wanted to, they could do something for these people, and the department could, if it chose to, provide advice to that.
Senator McKim, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up. We are now at 6 minutes